right now, as promised, joining us on the phone line. The NBA offseason is in full swing. What is the impact of the Giannis Antetokounmpo trade from Milwaukee? Frankly, I wasn't sure if he would ever be traded from Milwaukee a few years ago to the Miami Heat, but joining us right now is New York Times bestselling author of the book Giannis, as well as the biography of Hakeem Olajuwon, Dream. Mirin Fader is back with us here on 97.3 ESPN. Mirin, how you doing today?
Hey, I'm well. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate you jumping on today. And I wanted to start with this with you, and that is when you were writing about Giannis ago, and you put on all that legwork. Did you ever think that today that Giannis would be in a different uniform?
No, and I mean, that was the central tension of the book and of the last 6-7 years for people from Milwaukee. It was always national media coming in and saying, when will he leave? When will he leave? And so it was just this point of pride that he never did. And it was always, oh, that's the national media trying to stir up drama. He'll never leave. And so I think it's so shocking that it finally happened.
How much of him moving on do you think is something that he actually wanted, and how much of it do you think it was almost like he felt like, because you're someone who covers a lot of athletes, you talk to these guys, and not every athlete wants to be traded, not every athlete, did you ever get a vibe that he actually wanted this, or was he resigned to it, do you think?
I mean, at the time that I was, reporting this book, I never got that sense, but, there was really great article a couple days ago in the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel by Jim Masharsky, and you essentially got the vibe he did want to be traded. And nobody, not one person was at fault. Everyone was at fault, including himself. That's what I thought one of the article's biggest strengths was. And so I actually think it was something that he definitely wanted. It's just over the years, that was not something that he originally wanted. I think it just shows how, the Bucks went from an organization that really cared about hustle and, values like everyone playing their hardest and everyone being on the same page. And it was a really, mom and pop shop where everybody was, locked in, to an organization that traded, its cornerstones in Drew Holiday and, its ethos of defense. And so because of all of those things, he was just like, I don't want to be here anymore.
You just talked about how the organization's evolved. One thing you document in your book, Giannis, which I highly recommend anyone read if they haven't read it yet. You document how the ownership changes impacted Giannis's time in Milwaukee. When he first got there, it was a completely different ownership to what it is now. How much do you think that is maybe not just an impact on Giannis, maybe the organization as a whole, and that, you just said players, it used to be one vibe, one energy around the organization, and now it seems completely different.
Yeah, I mean, you take his experiences, which, in the dog days early on with him and Chris Middleton, when they won 15 games, there was a focus on attention to detail and players and everybody getting back to an organization that actually did achieve the pinnacle of success, and then maybe got a little too happy, maybe stopped relying on values that got them there. I think that Giannis is in a weird place in that he is not somebody that wanted to affect coaching changes and make big proclamations. He's not the star that will go to social media and say, trade me, or this coach needs to be fired. But there were things going on behind the scenes, according to that Milwaukee Journal Sentinel article, that showed that, yes, the ownership, all of those things have an impact. And he is not somebody that actually is quiet in those conversations. He actually was and wanted to be part of them.
Mirin Fader joining us here on 97.3 ESPN Radio Athletic. Of course, you can check out both of her New York Times best-selling books, Giannis, about Giannis Antetokounmpo's rise to becoming basically a future Hall of Famer. We can just call it what it is. And then also, if we're looking for a summer beach reading material, her book Dream about Hakeem Olajuwon, an incredible book about his whole journey from where he started, basically not even playing basketball. Mirin, can I ask you a really question real quick? Not literally John Giannis, but
yeah.
Thinking about some of the athletes you have covered, not just in the books you've written, but the articles you've written, it feels like so many them did not play sport they went pro in early on in their career. How wild is it for you as someone who's covering these athletes to like be writing about like, hey, they didn't play basketball or football as their first sport?
Yeah, that's such a good point. It kind of gives me, honestly, a perspective on how much the eye test fails and how we say all these things like, oh, they need to be playing this young and they need to be this tall and they need to go to this AAU team. It's all BS because actually, like, people that, play other sports tend to be more successful. So I just think the formula needs readjusting. Honestly, a lot of these people, when they say they're too late, I think, well, they're right on time. I mean, Joel Embiid, 17, Hakeem, 17, Giannis, 13. Really, and then when they do succeed in the NBA, all these analysts who were freaking out that they started too late are praising their footwork or their agility or their endurance. And it's like, yeah, but all those things came from all these other sports. So we really need to rethink what ideal training looks like for the path to an NBA superstar.
It's so true because I remember, when I was younger, when I played youth sports, it was you played a sport every season. There was no dedicating yourself to one sport. It was okay. In the fall, it was either football or soccer, and the winter it was either basketball or hockey or indoor track, and then in the spring it would be okay, well, you can do outdoor track or baseball, so or right? So it would be something where you had to play a different sport. And now you're still kids who are like, it's basketball or football or baseball almost basically year round. And Giannis and Hakeem and Embiid you mentioned and others, they're amazing examples of they wouldn't have these unique intrinsic qualities if they didn't play other sports and do other activities when they were younger.
Yeah, because it's not really about the sport. It's about the intrinsic competitiveness. Like, why does somebody like Giannis continue to push himself? Well, it's because he has this inner drive. That could be also applied to math or science or anything else he wanted to do with his life or tech, but he applied it to basketball. So, yeah, I think a lot of these people, their character and their discipline and their but it's not the only thing that it can be used for. And draft time is always fun for me because I try to do a story or two, but I'm always amazed at like the certainty that analysts have. Oh, this person is going to be this person is going to be that. Giannis' early, draft picks in the New York Times story that was on him, it certainly was not anything like what he became, and I think it's just healthy to keep skepticism and uncertainty and doubt in mind, and because not everybody does turn into the superstar you think, and then some people who you don't expect do. So the way that we talk about these athletes and the way that we analyze them, I think some humility would go a long way.
I think a healthy dose of humility would go along with for a lot of people. That's a different conversation. Mirin Fader from The Athletic joining us here on 97.3 ESPN. You mentioned about Giannis's competitive nature. I think that's part of the reason why him going to the Miami Heat is so fascinating. And to me, it completely changes the topography of the NBA offseason because you're taking a player who is an ultimate competitor. He didn't grow up in the AAU friends hanging out environment. And now he's taking that, let's be realistic. On the court, he's a ferocious competitor. He's taken that to an organization that literally it's all about competition.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine the conversations between Giannis and Pat Riley? I mean, I'd kill to be in those rooms. I'd kill to hear about, Pat Riley sharing tea from Showtime that nobody knows and things that will, inspire Giannis. One of the things he wanted to be around people like that. That is going to make him better, but he wants to win, right? So I think we need to also think about, well, who's around him? Obviously, Bam Adebayo is like insanely competitive as well, and they know each other. They share an agent, but I am curious what the rest of the makeup will look like and sort of how that's going to work, because I hope he's not going to run into the same problems of, yes, I am competitive, but it takes more than one person to win.
Speaking of more than one person to win, I thought the other part of it was them not trading Giannis by himself to the Miami Heat. That's an interesting wrinkle. I think a lot of people were so focused on just Giannis being traded, but now we're seeing Giannis plus a player, right? We saw with the LaMelo Ball trade, LaMelo Ball plus a player. So we're seeing more and more that while we're all talking, whether it's us and the media, the fans out there about these trades, it's more than just the one guy who's getting moved in these situations.
Yeah, it's a huge blow up, and you never quite know how it's all going to work out until the ball is thrown out and you see how 5 people figure it out. But I think like the NBA is just going through such a transformation in so many different ways, and this move is still so shocking. Whether he goes with one player, 2 player, no players, it's like, I don't know. I wouldn't say it feels wrong, like him being in another jersey, and I wonder if this is too far. But when I saw Hakeem in the purple Toronto jersey, I was like, what? It's kind of how I feel with Giannis in red. It's like, wait, what? I don't know. It doesn't feel right to me, at least.
I mean, I think that's the other problem, and that you mentioned how where Olajuwon ended his career, right? It's also the fact that you see Giannis in a Miami Heat jersey, you see LeBron now in 3 different jerseys. Like it's I hate to like get off my lawn, but there's a part of it that's like there's a part of you that the athlete connects with the city and the uniform with the championship so much that when they're not in a uniform anymore, it's like disorienting as a sports fan.
Yeah, it's also a very particular circumstance with Giannis in Milwaukee because it's a small market. They got to know him on a personal level, like very personal, like, oh, I need a ride to the arena, personal level, or there's never been anything like it in this era. And I think they watched him grow up quite literally, and they watched him not just grow up, but grow a family, and his family grow up as well, his siblings. So I think it's very painful for people to see him leave because they feel like he was theirs. And I know that's such a weird thing to say, but it's, you get attached, you get emotionally attached. It's more than parasocial. It's a very unique thing that I don't think will ever happen again in modern NBA. You will never have a GM, teaching your rookie how to drive, as Giannis did with the GM at the time. These are things that just don't happen in the modern NBA. And so, when he left, it's like, those are the things that people are thinking about. I saw a lot of tweets of like parents sitting their young kids down who won't understand about, what happened and trying to explain it to a 3-year-old. And like, that is really hard. It's really hard not to be your, but I cried, and I don't, that's sports. And I think shame on people who are mocking Milwaukee fans who are grieving this loss, because it is grief and it is a loss, and they're allowed to be sad. They're allowed to be sad.
Well, it's just ironic because, Milwaukee fans are crying. Philadelphia fans, when they let Brian Dawkins go, they were trying to storm the gates. So it just shows you, there's a different extreme, same emotional response. Right? The same emotional response is, that's our guy that you let leave.
Yeah, I mean, why do we watch sports? Because we care about the people that are on the floor. We think we know them. But it's also a healthy reminder you don't know them. A lot of people had no idea what was going behind the scenes with the Bucks and, the frustration brewing. And that happens also.
She's Mirin Fader. Check out all of her coverage in The Athletic. And, of course, her 2 New York Times best-selling books, Giannis, about Giannis Antetokounmpo's rise to becoming a future NBA Hall of Famer, as well as her book about Hakeem Olajuwon. Mirin, appreciate it. Make the time. Take you up to your work.
Thank you so much. Take care.